everyone. Today we have the pleasure of being joined by concert photographer extraordinaire and longtime Dave Matthews Band touring photographer Rodrigo Simas. Rodrigo recently announced that he will be hosting an event, a night of photography, featuring Brazilian photographer Rodrigo Simas in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on June 22nd, taking place at the Embassy Suites on Smithfield Street. Tickets start at just $25 with an option to upgrade to get a print exclusive to the event. Rodrigo, thank you so much for taking the time out. Huge fan of Dave Matthews, huge fan of concert photography, specifically your work, and it's an honor to talk to you today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited as well. Hello, everybody.
So first of all, let's jump into your event in Pittsburgh, following, of course, on the eve of DMB show in neighboring Burgettstown.
Yes.
For those coming out to the event, what can they expect?
Well, it's like a presentation. It's not an exhibit. It's more like a big screen and me going through all my work and explaining how did I start, what the techniques I use, what's my goal on photographing these concerts, what I try to do, how is my day-to-day basis on a tour, what I start doing, like when the show starts, where I am at and where I end, and what I try to catch when shooting Dave Matthews Band's like 2 hours and a half, 3 hours. But there's sometimes you are shooting for a magazine, you only have like 2 songs. So it all depends on what's your access and what's your time, the time you have to shoot, and what's your objective. So I go through all of it, showing pictures and explaining how they were done. I do a lot of multiple exposure things as well, so I go through that, and a lot of people don't know what it is. So I explain a little bit of what they are and give examples of that stuff that I do. Also, some pictures that I know that are like fan favorites, not only for Dave Matthews Band, but other stuff that I did. I give a little bit of a background or where it was taken, how did I do it, and also how I became a photographer, because till this day I don't consider myself a photographer. So kind of, I never studied photography, and like I still do a lot of other stuff outside photography. So it's basically like my story using photographs to tell a little bit till how I got here.
Excellent. And I know you have an exclusive print for sale. I don't want you to spoil any details on that because I know it's a surprise, but we have other prints for sale at the event as well.
Yes, we have a few. We are donating 10% to Burma Rags, to the Burma Works Fund, which is like the Dave Matthews Band benefit foundation. So we are giving them 10% of all income, tickets or prints. And yeah, we'll have a short selection there. Also, I have my website, so if people are interested, they can look at my website as well. They can order there. But on the exhibit, on the presentation, I say exhibit, but it's actually a presentation. At the presentation, we will have like a few, and there's this only for the event Dave shot that we are selling as well.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to this. And for somebody who maybe isn't a Dave Matthews Band fan, I mean, a complete monster, of course, who wouldn't be a Dave Matthews Band fan, but would they still enjoy the event and your photography and the stories behind the photos?
Well, I think so. If you're a fan of photography and concert photography, and if you really like not into Dave Matthews Band, there's a lot of stuff that I think it's interesting, even if you're not. If you're a photographer that you want to go into this field, or like you want to, or if you are a photographer of whatever other field that you are, but you are interested in knowing what we concert photographers do during a tour and how is our work, and this, I think it's interesting anyway. Even if you hate Dave Matthews Band music, it's still, because we don't talk much about the music itself. Right. It's just a canvas for what I'm working right now, but it's much more about my connection with music not Dave Matthews Band music, but with music itself, and how I do approach my photography using my connection to music. So that's basically what I talk during the presentation. Of course, there's more. So I'm using as a base of the presentation, the same presentation that I did in Mexico. We did like, I was invited to do a presentation like that one in Mexico, in Riviera Maya on the Dave and Tim concerts in last February. So I did that in the hotel. So this presentation in Pittsburgh is kind of an evolution of that, because when I did it at the hotel was only Dave Matthews stuff, because it was for the fans there. So basically I got that as a base and added my other stuff, the outside stuff, outside from Dave Matthews Band, just to give like a full kind of trip during, like, for all the work and all the artists that I'm involved with. But the story don't change. The story is basically what I told, what I told people in Mexico. It's just with more and different, a bigger, wider variety of artists.
And you said you have no formal photography training, but
Zero.
what inspired your love of photography, specifically concert photography?
Music. I'm just a huge music fan, from black metal to folk music.
Yeah.
So I just love music, and I listen and breathe music like 24/7. So basically it started as a hobby. I would write for rock and metal magazines when I was a teenager, like covering concerts and festivals and all this stuff. So I used to write a lot, like reviews of the concerts and reviews of whatever, and then I started also, like, when you do that for websites, they don't pay you. They just want someone there to review
Right,
it.
we're aware.
Yeah. And that's basically how, like, I would say 90% of concert photographers started. It's just covering concerts for free for magazines or website, and then you get better and better. And then I used to do as a hobby, so I started writing for it, and then I said, oh, I have a camera, I like to photograph, I might try. So I started taking my camera with me and started doing shots, and then I started a website for Dave Matthews Band in Brazil called DM Brazil. It was a fan website in Brazil, and I needed content for that website as well. So I used to travel to the shows here in the US to watch the band, and whenever I could come, I would ask management for press passes, right, for photographer pass to shoot 2 or 3 the first songs with the press people who were really covering. But I was covering for my website in Brazil, so I could have exclusive contents for the Brazilian fans and for my website in Brazil. And I started showing them the stuff that I was getting, and they I think they liked it. So that's how it all started.
Awesome.
So yeah, so I basically learned doing it. And once I was here, and they were hiring me to shoot, I started to look. I never had like people that I would look for, like, oh, like, oh, this photographer is like, I need to get on this level. But when I started coming here and saying, oh, I like this, like, I want to keep doing this, then I started looking at photographers that Danny Clench or whatever, like, all those other cats that do the same stuff, and seeing the level that they were and saying, okay, I need to get to nearby that level if I want to continue doing this. So that's when I started to take it more seriously.
Excellent. And I'm gonna turn it over to Patrick here. He's a photographer. He has just like you, has gone through management and gotten press passes, and he shot the band, what, 10 times, Patrick, probably?
Yeah.
Over
Yeah.
the years. So I'm gonna turn it over to him for some photography questions to you here.
Let's see if I can answer.
So I guess my question for you is, when you go to shoot, like, per instance, so like each night, like, do you have a particular goal of like a target, or like something like, tonight I want to focus on X, Y, and Z, or and like you approach it in that way? Or do you feel like you're just going to go out and see what inspires you in that moment and try to capture that as best as possible. Does that make sense?
Yes, but my goal is to document the night, the event.
Okay.
You know, so my goal is to not only show the band, but for the band to have an archive of that night. So that's because I'm not working for a magazine or for whatever. So I'm working for the band, and what they want is an archive of a document of what happened that night. So I shoot the venue, I shoot the crowds coming in, I shoot everything. Like it's like a story of what happened that night.
Mhm.
That's my goal. So usually when the show starts, I go to the lawn, to the last, like the far that I can go from the stage, and I start from there and climb down to the stage. So I get to the stage around the 6th or 7th song, and that's when I start shooting the band. I don't have like any specific goals. I try to get like at least a couple of really, really great shots of each member.
Mhm.
After I got all the ambience. So after I got the venue from behind, the people coming in, and the full stage, the lights, blah, blah, blah. After I got that, I get to the stage, and then I want, at least I try to get like at least a couple of shots, good shots from each band member. After I have that, I'm kind of free. If I documented the whole, the whole scene, plus I'm sure I have like 2 or 3 great shots about of each band member, then I'm kind of free to do whatever I want to do, and then that's when the fun begins. But before that, I do like what I need to do, and then I just go. Then I start to work on multiple exposure, different angles. Go into the stage and start shooting from behind Carter's drum kit. But that's only after I know I have what I need to have, and then I can play a little bit, and that's usually the fun part of the night.
That's really cool, and everything you said just makes a lot of sense in that approach, because yeah, you're right. You are documenting the night, which is the totality of everything that is part of. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, and the one thing that I see a lot of concert photographers do that I don't agree with is that sometimes they just shoot. And I know there's sometimes I have the same problem when I only have 2 or 3 songs. But what I try to do is I don't like pictures that like Dave Matthews, Stefan Lessard, Carter, like just the face and the guitar, and you don't know where the fuck they are. You know what I mean? Like you can't tell what venue they are, how big is the stage, how big is the production. It could be anywhere in the world. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of like concert reviews and concert photography that only show the artists, but don't show where they are playing. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I try to do a little bit. Of course, I need to do the headshots, and I need to do but I want to show, even when I'm doing like a press, which I still do a lot. I try to, within these 3 songs, I take like, if I have 3 songs, 1 song is to gather the headshots of band members, 1 song to get the stage production lights, and 1 song to go crazy. So even when I have like less time, I still try to work the whole thing out, not doing only, because for me that's covering a concert, not
Yeah, I'll see photographers that just bring like 1 lens, and they're just like, all right, 24-70, whatever you can fit. And I'm like, where's my 17-35, and where's my 80-200? And like, I want that.
I use only 3.
Same.
I use 3 lenses, but 2 cameras all the time. So I don't keep changing the lens. So basically I use in 1 camera 24-70 and the other camera 70-200. That's basically it. For what I do with Dave, that's more than enough. And then I have an Tokina 11-16, just for the wide stuff. So if I want to get the whole stage, and if I'm too near the stage, or if I want to get more stuff, I use that. But it usually like 80% of the time I'm just with the 24-70 in 1 camera and the other camera. So I don't need to change lens, because the time I'm changing lens, I'm losing whatever. Like if something happens and I'm with the wrong lenses. The time I'm changing the lens, I lost that moment. So I just have two cameras all the time with those lenses. I just
Yeah. No, I've been mid lens change when something happened. I was like, all right, well, I'm glad I can remember it.
yeah. I can like I'm doing a lot of shows like in a row. This year I'm doing like, I don't know, between 25 and 30. And the shows are very similar because it's the same band, it's like, it's all the same. So the moments are very important to me because those are the difference between one show to another, are those specific moments. So I really can't afford to lose them, because if not, all the shows will look the same for me.
For sure. What has been one of your top maybe three shows that you've been able to shoot outside of Dave that has been like, I got to shoot that artist that really sort of resonates with you? Do you have any? Is that a
I shot Radiohead a couple of times in Brazil. That was really cool. I've done 2 tours with Ben Harper, also in Brazil. That was really cool. I was a huge Ben Harper fan growing up, so that was very cool. I shot John Mayer. I work a lot. I'm a big metal fan, so metal bands are always like my sweet spot. So I just shot Coheed and Cambria in Houston at the House of Blues, and I love that band so much. And it was fun because I was going to the show anyway, and they invited me to shoot, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, that's cool. So Coheed, all metal. Like I shot Iron Maiden in Lisbon like last year, and that was wild.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a bunch. There's a band that I always work with called Epica. That's a European metal band that's pretty big in Europe. They're not that big here in the US, but they're like, their headline is like big arenas in Europe now. They are the support band for Metallica in Europe right now. So
Nice.
it's a big band, and I worked with them a few times, and they're great cats. And so there's this band too. So yeah, there's a few, but metal bands usually are my favorites to shoot.
Ooh, what's the hardest band you've shot that like made it the most challenging as a photographer? Can you think of? Like
Radiohead is not easy.
No, that's true.
Radiohead is not easy at all. Let me see. Well, I shot Slipknot one time. It was like a long time ago. I actually would love to shoot Slipknot right now. Now that I'm kind of know what I'm doing, because I shot Slipknot when I was starting, and I didn't have the equipment, and I was covering for a magazine for free, all that stuff, like, I don't know, 20 years ago or something. And it's the worst pictures I have in my collection. And I remember being on the photographer's pit, like, what the fuck is happening? And they were all like super fast, and lights were shining everywhere, and my equipment was not great, and I ended up with like nothing, and that was kind of a turning point for me, because I thought, whoa, like I can't not do this, you know what I mean? Like I need to make this work anyhow, so that's when I started actually buying my first full frame camera, and that's how I said, okay, with the equipment I have, I can't do this, so that was kind of an eye opener for me. But they were in a Subliminal Verses tour, which is like their 3rd album, I think, so it was a long time ago.
Okay.
Let me see if there's any. And there are bands that are super easy to shoot. Like if you shoot Kiss, they just pose for you. Like the best band.
Yeah.
They look at the photographers, and they know that, and they just look at you and they pose. They put the pick in their tongues, and it's the greatest. They are there for the photographers. It's just the most amazing thing.
They have a riser in the pit just to make the photographers closer.
Yeah, it's amazing. So they are a band that knows that image is important, right? So I think they are coming from that area too. What else? Iron Maiden is not easy to shoot though. Like I thought it would be easier. I shot them a couple of times, but the last time I shot, it was like a year ago. And because the stage is so, like, Iron Maiden like cannot be the same here in the US as they were. But in Europe and South America, they are stadium big. It's crazy still. Like huge. and I'm a big Maiden fan. And I shot them in Lisbon in a place for like 30,000-40,000 people. And the stage was huge. And we were like very far away from the stage. The pit was already far away from the stage. And they still move a lot. Bruce Dickinson does not stop. He does run the fucking whole stage. So it's hard to catch him in a good, and you only have 3 songs to shoot. It's like, oh my God, and but yeah, Kiss is easy. What else? I don't know. But yeah, I would say probably the most difficult for me might be Radiohead. I don't know. And easiest for sure it's Kiss.
Yeah.
That's the easiest one.
I've had the pleasure of both, and they are, you described it quite well. I think the only one more challenging for me was Tool, because they don't want to be photographed. And
I never shot them, but yeah, I heard about it. Yeah. Yeah, there are some bands that the lights are really like I can tell you like metal bands that are really hard because of the lights. So there's a band called Opeth. It's kind of a black metal band that nowadays is like more like a prog metal band. And I shot them a couple of times, and their lights are very hard to shoot. It's because of all the doomy, they like this doomy like kind of scene, and it's hard. Everything's very dark, so that's a dark. It's a difficult band to shoot too. So there are a lot of metal bands that are difficult because it's just dark.
Yeah.
So
Joel?
Rodrigo, oh, go ahead, Patrick.
No, I was gonna say, Joel, you're up.
All right. What percentage of concert photography is an art versus what percentage of it is a science and knowing, how to get a good shot with your gear?
Well, science is the first part of the show, as I said. It's the part that I document everything and do whatever, like what I need to do. That's basically me not messing around, just focusing and doing the best I can, but regular clean shots. And the art for me is when I just finish those and I can play and do whatever I feel like doing and start like working on compositions and, start working like with the multiple exposure or just one exposure, but with different speeds or, apertures and that kind of stuff. That's when I think art starts. And that's when you start to mess around things, not doing the mechanical, just, okay, that's the basic stuff. I know that if I have like I usually, my ISO is usually around 2000. So I know that if I shot 2000 with a speed of like 400 and 2.8 in Dave Matthews Band, all my shots will be good and clear. It's just a basic, I just need to get the frame that I want to take. So that's not art. Like I can do that with my eyes closed right now. But after that, when I have the shots that I have, then I start to play a little bit. And that's for me what's the art part of it goes. And usually it's in the end, they are my favorite shots. It's when I done doing the regular process and just doing what I think is more like artsy. And it ends up being the best ones sometimes, And there's the black and white stuff too. But black and white, for me, I would say almost 100% of the pictures that you see from myself in black and white are the shitty pictures in color that I don't have time to work. I just turn them black and white. So whatever I have a picture that the color is like too red or too blue or too whatever green, and I don't have time to edit it and to correct the color, I just turn it to black and white. So there's no art in that. But sometimes it looks cool. That's one thing that I tell in the presentation, because I show a lot of black and white people, black and white pictures, and people, oh, this is very cool. It's very artsy. And no, this is just
red.
Just shitty color pictures that I turn into black and white because I don't have time to work on that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And what does a typical workday look like for you? Can you walk us through everything from travel to getting to the venue to, I know you do a lot of pre-show photos and capture those moments leading up to the show. Can you talk about that for us? Just what a typical workday is like for you?
Yeah, so today's a day off, so I'll try not to stay at the computer. I have the pictures from yesterday to edit, but I'll probably leave them till tomorrow because tomorrow's a work day. So tomorrow we'll leave. I still don't have the schedule for tomorrow, but we'll probably be leaving for the venue around 9. That's usually the time that we leave for the venue. So I'll get to the venue like 9:30, let's say. And then that's when I usually start to edit the pictures from the night before, when you have like show after show after show. And then I usually spend like 3 hours editing the pictures. I finish usually in like between 2 and 3 hours, I finish the whole thing. So usually by noon or noonish, I'm over the pictures from the day before. So that's when I have like lunch and start to get my gear ready for when the band arrives. And the band arrives around, like they start arriving around usually 2:30, 3. They don't come like they don't come all together. So usually like Dave's arrives first, and because Dave has his all scheduled to do during the show day. So after the band arrives, I'm basically paying attention to if anything is going to if they are doing anything. So sometimes they do sound check, sometimes they don't, sometimes they do rehearsal room, which is a room that they set up sometimes for the band to just go and rehearse new songs or rehearse something that they want to bring back. So when they have that, it's always great for me because it's a different setting to shoot. So they can do these activities. Sometimes Dave warms up his voice. So there's this warm up sessions that I go in and take a little bit of video and picture for that. Dave writes set lists like 2 hours before the show, so I usually go in to catch him writing set list as well. Sometimes he just plays songs on guitar. So I'm always kind of the horns. So Jeff and Rashawn, they always warm up as well. So I'm always like paying attention when just like yesterday, for example, they didn't sound check, but Tim Reynolds went to stage to test his guitars and to play a little bit. So as soon as I hear like, oh, there's someone on stage that was not supposed to be, I just run to the stage and get a few pictures of what's happening, So it's basically paying attention to whatever is happening during the day. And after the band is playing, starting like 7:30. So usually like 6:45, around that's when they start like to all be in the dressing room, when they all like start to talk like conversations. And so that's when I'm already like nearby the dressing room or by dressing room's door, waiting for moments for me to go in and do some shooting. And then from there on is action all the time till the show ends. Yeah.
I know how important trust is in a circle of a band like this, and I don't want to get you fired, but do you have any good behind the scenes stories that you can share with us that maybe the fans haven't heard yet, something that happened backstage, or any good moments that maybe you didn't capture on film, something that was said, something that happened that you can share with us?
Man, I wish you have asked it before. I need to think about it. I don't know. They basically talk there, like, they just tell jokes for each other for like 30 minutes and they just go on stage, and usually between the encore break, they set like a table, just they sometimes they go back to the dressing room, but sometimes they just they do like a table for them with snacks and water and whatever they drink. Backstage, like after you leave the stage, or they set up something when the dressing room is far from the stage. So they just sit there for like 10 minutes while they are chatting, and then they are discussing, because sometimes they change the encore. And that's when they discuss about it. Is that on that break? So on the break, they usually discuss whatever. Oh, so should we keep these 2 songs that are already on the set list? Should we change it? And depending on the crowd's energy or the band energy, it changed, or if Dave's feeling well, or if he's not feeling well, it all depends on how they're feeling. So those are cool moments to witness, to be there and to see, because that's when stuff happens and it's cool.
And as someone who was a fan before you got this job, what's
I'm
it
still a
like
fan.
having? Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
What's it like having unfettered access to one of the most successful bands of our generation?
Man, it's cool, but as you said, it's not because I'm a good photographer or a bad photographer. It's because of the trust. The trust comes before, if you're like, the trust in if you're a good professional, but not professional in what you do, but professional in terms of the respect you have for the band, and vice versa, so they have to respect you and they have to trust you, and they need to know, even in my position more than anything, because I'm always there, so they need to be really relaxed, looking at your face every day, every time, so I try to be a shadow there, and yeah, and they're just used to me because I was a fan and a friend before working for them, so they consider me a friend before I started working for them, which was nice. And they give me a lot of credit for the work I did in Brazil with the website and South America before I was hired by them. So I started working for them already with a respect coming from the band, which helps a lot. They were grateful for the work I did, and that's how we start talking about working with them. And so it was a different start than most of people. So, but yeah, I think besides excluding the part of being a good photographer or not, I think the trust comes in the first place.
Patrick, any other photography questions here before we wrap up and give the information about the event again?
Well, every photographer is just going to want to know, what's your camera? What do you shoot?
I shoot a R6 and a 5D. Those are my two at the moment. So one mirrorless, one not. I'm just kind of changing to the mirrorless system. I still have my EF lens.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of, so Canon Portugal is kind of they gave me this R6 for me to test, and just I said, oh, because I'm doing these workshops in Lisbon. I'm currently living in Portugal, Lisbon, but I'm Brazilian. So I'm working with Canon Portugal now, with a lot of projects, and I'm doing this concert photography workshops in Lisbon, and the most iconic venue there. I kind of became their official photographer. It's called the Coliseum in Lisbon, which is a very, very cool venue. So we're doing a monthly concert workshop there. It's great. We just 4 days, 2 days I teach. 1 day is a concert that I take all the students to shoot the concert. And the last day is basically me seeing their work and saying, this is bad, this is good, and whatever, you can change this, change that. But it's very, very cool. And it's all sold out, so we are very excited about it. But so Canon gave me the R6, and hey, try this one and see if you like it, blah, blah, blah. And I had a hard time in the first couple of months to get used to it. But now I'm loving it.
Nice.
I can't get enough. So I'm thinking about getting a second R6 and just leaving my 5D at home in case I need it. But I'm thinking about swapping everything to the mirrorless, because it makes my job easier, and it does not make any noise, which is great for backstage pictures. Because even if I'm with a 5D and obviously there's no beep, there's no I cut all the sound, there's still the track, every time that I shoot. And when it's all silent, that makes a difference. You know what I mean? So sometimes I'm in the dressing room and I'm silent, has nobody's even seen that I'm there, but I tack, 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 and people can look, And with the mirrorless, I'm more of a shadow than so it's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. So, and it's lighter anyway. There's a lot of The only thing that I was not used to it was the electronic visor.
Yeah,
That's weird in the beginning to get used to it.
yeah.
And now I got it. And
I grow to prefer it because then you
Yeah.
see you see what it looks like. You see your work.
man, it's great.
Yeah.
And it's great to do the multiple exposure too, because you can see where your
First
where your-
image.
you see your first image or your third, you see where you want, so it's great. It's very, it makes your life easier. So I'm thinking about making the whole change.
Nice.
Yeah. But either like if you have and if you are like starting photography, I would totally recommend something like a 6D, which is a full frame and it's cheap. I think it's the best camera you can buy for not much expensive one. And you can do pretty much whatever you want to do with 6D nowadays. If you have a good lens and you have a 6D, you can do a great job.
True. Agree.
Yeah, so I would say for beginners, 6D, and if you have enough money, 5D or 6 is a good choice.
Well, thank you, Joel.
Yeah.
Well, we've taken up enough of your time here. I think we're over half hour already, and I know you've got an off day to enjoy. So, Rodrigo, thank you so much for taking the time out. I do want to just give the information about your event one more time. It is coming up on Thursday, June 22nd, 7 p.m. Embassy Suites in Pittsburgh, 535 Smithfield Street. Tickets just $25, but of course, Rodrigo does have an upgrade available. Several different sizes of an exclusive print for the event. So yeah, check it out. We're gonna have the link in this video to the Eventbrite page to purchase the tickets and to Rodrigo's website as well. On a personal note, as a huge fan of concert photography and Dave Matthews Band, thank you so much for your awesome artwork and for being our eyes for people who can't go to every single show. I love just seeing it. You capture it so well. It's just so wonderful to see those photos every day on Instagram and Facebook. And I know I'm part of a lot of the DMB groups on Facebook, the Couch Tour, and everyone else there. We love seeing your work as well. So thank you so much for all that you do. And safe travels on the road. We'll see you in Pittsburgh.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Man, I'm as big as a fan as all of you. So, and I couldn't do this job if I was not. So yeah, it's great. And if you guys want to see my bad English in Pittsburgh, just come to the presentation. And yeah, it'll be fun. I'm excited, and it's know a little bit more of what I do. And yeah. I like most of the stuff I already told you here in this interview. There's a lot of stuff that I tell on the presentation, but there's a lot of in-depth through the pictures, so that's interesting.
Awesome. All right, Rodrigo, thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.